The Merry Pranksters, Chapter 9, Episode 2. I grab the Jameson and take a long pull before unmercifully asking, "What, did you think I just guessed?" The sound of $500 worth of Aramaic pool balls crashing into each other becomes therapeutic after a while. A smashing break wakes me from a brief opium nod, and I take my last 2 oxys with a mouthful of whiskey. Rising to my feet, I set the glass down atop the mirrored Noguchi coffee table and crack my neck. "Look," I tell them, stubbing out a cigarette in the Baccarat Crystal Lounge ashtray, "I'm going to take a shower." I wasn't looking for a reaction, and the boys didn't give me much of one until I shouted the Lord's name in vain. What I had first mistaken for a randomly discarded fur coat lying on the living room floor is what I now realize to be a majestic Timbavati lion's skin rug bearing 2 piercing onyx eyeballs. With their attention now captured, all I can do is shake my head in defeat. "When I get out," I tell them, "you 2 cunts are cutting these stitches out of my face." The first time I ever heard the song Dead Flowers was after my stitches were removed and Dickie showed it to me on the guitar. The third time Mick sings, "I won't forget to put roses on your grave," I remembered Val used to postscript that line on letters she would write me. I immediately became obsessed with learning every note and played the song incessantly. Dickie leaned back in the black and white cowskin bar stool and began telling a tale about Keith Richards and the Canadian Prime Minister's wife that was so fantastical I had to wonder if it wasn't fiction. Hank says, "I don't know, dude. Sounds like fake news to me, but whatever." And for all I know, he's right. I say desperately, "Yeah, well, I need a brand new girl to take my pain away." I tell Dickie to pass me that bottle, and he tells me to go get a glass. Dude, we're not in Tijuana. The Black Miller Deluxe raised panel bar in the living room features a vast array of hellishly overpriced liquor. The tall bottle in the center of the row is a thin, auburn-colored flask of Don Julio 1942. Dickie sits down next to me on the black Armani sofa and hands me a glass and then tells me to drink it. After that, he forces me to learn the changes they made to Holy Gunsmoke while I was off hibernating. Though it was the last thing I wanted to do, it turned out to be just what I needed. Something is going on here and I'll probably never get it, but the way his curly hair, dark with sweat hanging down over his face from the way he held his head, made this all seem so surreal. It was not just the spotlight pointed at us, slanted by a funhouse prism, but just knowing that, though people may not know the name Dickie Hernandez now, someday all the world will be singing his song. The tall bottle in the center of the bar was a thin, reddish-brown bottle of 1942. And the sound that it made when Hank threw a glossy red billiards ball through it gave me a wicked flashback to the moment my face broke through the caddy's windshield. He stepped through the living room like a shadow eclipsing a harvest moon, swearing and bringing a falling darkness along with him. After he slammed his phone down on the black marble countertop, Hank announced firmly that he didn't want to talk about it. Brushing the broken glass off the counter, he reached for the dusty bottle of Jim Beam and poured a full glass like it would have been brutish to drink straight from the bottle. Gathering his thoughts, he's trying to say something about Gonzo being stuck in the past but never shutting up about the future. However, he's struggling to find the words. Although we were slow to admit it, Dickie and I knew just what he was jiving at. With the way the last gig ended and the Halloween Monster Mash quickly approaching, it's not as if everyone suddenly learned how to catch lightning in a bottle. Hank is playing his hand close to the vest, but he has the look of a man being blackmailed. He set down his drink and paces the length of the pool table while Dickie and I watch him carefully. listening while he talks himself through this local record label that Fook is trying to sell us on, and Gonzo's never-ending dope capades. He speaks with the conviction of a man determined to earn the validation that comes with discovering something unholy is going on. As he ranted endlessly about an unnamed treachery, Hank ran his hand along the silver edge of the table, and I remember thinking it suited him. It suited him in the same way that Dickie, leaning back in his leather bar stool, bobbing an ice cube with his forefinger, suits him. The more Hank works through where all the pieces on this chessboard fit together, the more he wonders if he's even playing the right game. Either way, players will need to be sacrificed. When he finishes, he reaches for his glass of Jim Beam, but then brushes it aside in exchange for the old bottle, which he takes a raw pull from. Wiping a golden drop from his lip, Hank looks at Dickie and I soberly, like a die had just been cast. Dickie attempts to appeal to our sense of brotherhood, but only so we're able to claim there was a debate. We all know, despite this being the direction Hank was leaning all along, the time had finally come. Gonzo had to go. A Gonzo that would never do anything to jeopardize the band may have been true in the old world, but we're not living in the old world. In this brave new world we're living in, fuck knows what Gonzo is capable of doing. After all, this is a world where sentences that aren't meant to be ironic begin with, "Well, Fookie said." The way we conspired to execute our plan felt like a coup d'etat. It wasn't like Gonzo was going to just walk away without a fight. Simply getting a hold of him would take a war room. Once we decided that we'd have to tell Fookie, that started a whole chain reaction of ball aches. After all, this is exactly what Fookie always said we would do, even before Hank started floating the idea. I asked if they thought Fook would pout or threaten to quit. Hank scoffed and said, "Huh, let him." But Dickie put his hands up and asked him if he wanted to handle all the legal business and the social media bullshit on Horace. And Hank said, "Yeah, I guess every circus needs a clown." Dickie suggested we talk to him together to avoid any misunderstandings. "Until then," he said, "we keep band shit in the band. All of this stays on the down low. Schultz, that means you too. Watch what you say around Val. If Blair finds out, we're as good as fucked."